Welcome to Typography Hierarchy. This is the first lecture, part 1, on week 1 of the class. You probably heard this lecture in class, but if you missed it, here's the content as well. We're going to start off this quick lecture with going over what you've learned in Typography Traditional. So let's do a quick recap of the terms we learned about typography. Typeface. So a typeface is the design of a single set of characters unified by consistent visual properties. Typefaces are made up of letters, numbers, symbols, punctuation, and accent marks. Typeface. The X height is the height of the lowercase letters. Ascenders, lowercase letters that go above the X height. And descenders are the lowercase letters who go below the baseline or the bottom edge of all of the letters. And there's your baseline. So the descenders go below the baseline. There are 3 main classifications of typefaces, being serif, sans serif, and display. Serif typefaces always have these small strokes added to the upper and lower ends of the main strokes. Those small strokes are in fact called serifs. And every serif typeface will have serifs on the letter forms. As you might guess, sans serif typefaces do not have serifs at the edges of the letter forms, like so. And then finally, display fonts they can either be a serif or a sans serif face. However, they are designed for large scale applications. Display fonts are always much more elaborate than a standard serif or sans serif typeface. They often only have one case, so they might be just an uppercase font, and they are definitely going to be very decorative or elaborate, and they're going to be a typeface that's really not going to work well as a reading font for body text. So here are a couple examples of what display fonts might look like. A couple subsets of display fonts include blackletter and script. There are also substyles of serif typefaces as well as sans serif. So here are a couple serif substyles. There's old style, traditional, modern, and slab. And you can see on the right in gray, I give you a couple different typefaces as examples to each of the styles. The only real difference between an old style and a transitional typeface is the time frame in which the typeface was actually designed. So it's often very hard to tell the difference just looking at a typeface, whether it's going to be an old style or a transitional font, or mostly because the transitional font is really just marking a time frame when the style of typefaces sort of morphed from that old style look with the tilted axis and less accentuated thick and thin strokes to the more modern aesthetic of the modern serif typefaces, which have higher contrast in the thick and thin strokes. And they also start to morph into these more flat serifs. However, they don't all have flat serifs like you see here. So then after modern is slab serif fonts. Slab serifs are going to have usually more of a uniform weight to the letter forms, unlike the modern, which has like I said, a high contrast weight to it. But the slab serifs do have these very vertical serifs on the edges of the letter forms, like you can see here. All right, we're not going to go over the sans serif variations of style because they are, again, very slight and very hard to distinguish without scrutiny and a large just knowledge of memorizing what different typefaces look like. So you don't have to worry about that. All right, so during class we went over sort of how typography hierarchy is going to run with this course. If you missed that part of class today, just be sure to check out the syllabus. All the information is there. There are 3 main objectives. We're going to go over type is expressive, type for text, we're talking about typesetting, and then type and design, bringing it all together. We'll talk about grid and hierarchy. So the first unit we're going to go over for the first few weeks of class is type is expressive, which leads us into the main content of today's lecture. Expressive typography, how meaning is communicated. So looking at these 2 poster examples, you can immediately get the sense that both designs are expressing a certain feeling or emotion. They both have a point of view, and they are definitely opposite points of view. The poster on the left, the white lettering on the black, it says nice and tight, and the type has been kerned in nice and tight, right? The letter forms are snug together and snug up against the left-hand margin of the page. The way the type has been arranged and the typeface that was chosen was all done intentionally to reinforce the message of the poster. The claustrophobic lettering directly relating to the message. Similarly, the poster on the right, which says into the curvier, big and bouncy type, then call, right, is using big, bouncy, curvy, bubbly letter forms. The text has been center aligned down the center of the poster. The color that has been used kind of reminds you of like big fluffy clouds in the sky. It's like a very huggable design. And again, the design of the poster and specifically the selection of typeface and the arrangement of the letters is immediately and reinforcing the message that the poster is trying to communicate. This is what we're talking about when we say type is expressive. The correct typeface on the correct communication helps your viewer instantly understand what you're trying to say. Here are a couple more examples where typeface selection is really adding this extra element of expression and interpretation for your viewer. The poster on the left says liars, and it's a little subtle on the screen, but there's like a knife silhouette on the top of the eye. And so it looks like the I letter form has come through and slain down the other letters of the word, right? So there's already this narrative at play over what is going on. Each of these letters are becoming characters in this larger dialogue, this larger story, even though, right, it's just 5 letters on a black background with a little bit of informational text underneath. This must be maybe a play. It has a date, someone's name, probably a location, and then San Francisco. So it's, doesn't give you a ton of information, but it's already telling a story, right? We already know that this I has come through, chopped up these other letters. It says liars, so apparently the I felt betrayed. And you have this larger story at play that you as the viewer can interpret and sort of fill in the blanks and get you extra curious about what is this event really about, all through the use of typography and composition. The poster on the right, the white poster, has a quote. It says, "I want your superiors to find out which cow my milk comes from." And then the person who said the quote apparently was Hyacinth Bucket. Apparently this is a quote and a character from a British show that I am not familiar with. However, you might have read the quote in your head similarly to how I read it in my head, and I read it out loud, because the way the type was set, right? Certain letters are in all caps. Some letters are in italics, which we have just been naturally taught to mean that is something that is getting extra emphasis when you have something italicized. Different words are larger and smaller to, again, help create this sense of emphasis and have the viewer read the sentence in a certain way to evoke the same emotion that the speaker was saying. Hello, hello, right? So even something as simple as the word hello typeset black and white on a square can give off a certain emotion, right? You're going to read the hello on the left differently than you're going to read the hello on the right. The hello on the left is big and in caps and in italics, and it's so excited to see you, it's being like cropped off the sides of the pages, right? That's a really excited and friendly hello. That's someone running up to you with their arms wide open, wanting to give you a hug. The hello on the right still feels awfully friendly to me. It's a very playful and friendly serifed typeface. It's in lowercase, so I don't feel like it's quite shouting at me, but it's a bolder font and it's taking up enough of the room on the spread where they're still saying hello in a very polite way. I think they're happy to see you, but they're not running up to you and giving you a giant bear hug. So again, us as designers, we have the power of influence. So the typefaces that we choose, the size that we set our type at, and where we place it on the page is all playing into how our viewer is interpreting our design and understanding the message that we're trying to communicate. One of the godfathers of graphic design, Herbert Lublin, was a famous designer. He passed away in 1981. But one of the things that he was most known for was his use of typography in an expressive manner. And these designs that he created in the 1960s and 70s were really groundbreaking at the time. So these are two different posters that he did. The one on the left is a little hard to read, but it says, "A diplomat is a person who can tell you to go to hell in such a way that you actually look forward to the trip." So it's a little tongue-in-cheek, right? He uses this very elaborate script font to write out "go to hell." So again, a message that looks really flamboyant and elegant and refined actually ends up being snarky. So again, so he's using type to be funny, right? To be ironic. And then the poster on the right, not quite as much to interpret there, but he has a really fun typeface that he drew out that says beards, and it's arranged below part of someone's face to look like a beard, right? So it's still clever. This was also very groundbreaking at the time. The AIGA gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and this is a quote from the AIGA about Herbert. It says, "His work takes you quickly to the heart of a very big subject, the theory of meaning and how meaning is communicated, how an idea is moved, full and resonant, from one mind to another. His use of words, letters, pieces of letters, additions of letters, connections and combinations, and virtuoso manipulation of letters profoundly changed our vision and perception of letter forms, words, and language." These are three publications that he designed the logos for. I don't know if they're still around, but they were very popular, at least through the 90s, the last time I looked at magazines in a store. But anyway, you can see how all of these masthead logos really speak to the essence of the content inside, with very simple manipulation of the letter forms to tell a narrative or to express a concept, right? So the first one says marriage, but just by flipping that second R over, Now it's like the two R's are kissing and holding hands, which obviously speaks to the idea of marriage, right? Similarly, the next one down says mother and child, where the ampersand and the word child is typeset within the O of mother. So it's like the O is pregnant. Again, kind of clever, right? And then the last one says families. And again, he's manipulated the X height of the I's and added a dot above the L. And then all of a sudden, the ILI becomes a cute little 3-person family. And then I have a couple examples of current designers who are also using type to express emotion or larger concepts. So this is Craig Ward. Says, "You blow me away." And the type has literally been split apart and is shattering as if, a ball went through a glass window or something like that. These are a couple other ones by Craig Ward. Again, he's sort of showing you, he's using the materials that directly relate to the message. So ink and water don't mix. Type has been set with ink, added water. Obviously, then the ink bleeds, and there you have your poster. The one on the right for variety, that says dirt, and it's each of the letter forms are compiled, placing dirt to create the different letters of D-I-R-T. This is Matt Hoden. I think again, they're subtle, but they're clever. They make me smile. So eggs, you can see that just by accentuating the negative space inside the G's and sort of elongating that shape to becomes 2 little egg shapes, right? And then happy, just pulling the descender, the tail of the Y, all the way around and giving it a little serif. It really makes it look like the Y is smiling. And then here are some other examples without an attribution to them. So magnetic, right? We turn the M on its side and, through a little creative coloring, I don't even think the coloring is necessary to really understand what's happening, right? But each of the letters are now being pulled towards the M as if they were being magnetized. And then that next one says playful design. And the word playful is made up of all these different yellow bits like they're flying, out from space together to form the letter forms of playful. This next one says hidden, right? You can kind of see the ghosting shadow of that second D in hidden. It's hiding behind the other D. And then killed kind of speaks to the liars one earlier, right? The I is now on its side. It's dead. All right, so those were all of my examples of expressive typography, which is going to be our first exercise for the class. If you missed live class today, the next step will be to go back onto Google Drive, open up the exercise 1 folder, and read over the instructions and get started.